I'm Kate. I'm one of the founders of One for Dan, and the reason we set up this charity, whatever you want to call it, is to raise awareness for cardiac conditions in the young and to try and find that 1 in 300, which is why we call it the One for Dan. And I was also Dan's partner. Jordan really struggled when Dan died. He didn't quite know what to do with me. I would just sit in the car in absolute silence and not talk to anyone. I was very difficult to be around because I was just lost. And I don't know where it came from one day. We must have been going out for a drive, and Jordan will always put on like karaoke songs on his Spotify. So we'll just sit there and sing really badly and really off key. And I don't know why, we just decided to book a rehearsal studio. And I remember messaging one of you lads, say, do you know anywhere we could go and rehearse? And we started coming here, and it was therapy. We booked 3 hours. He'd let him do all his fancy guitar stuff. He'd let us sing some trash. And it was just, you could shut the world away for 3 hours and just get lost in music, which is something we all really enjoyed. You know, Dan and Jordan have a very similar music taste. Very similar. Jordan, one of Jordan's things that I always find really funny, he said, I will never forget playing Xbox with Dan and I could hear you screeching down the headset along to Breaking Benjamin. I suffer with quite bad PTSD now. I've never had a mental health issue before. The doctors tried to misdiagnose it as depression in the early days, and it's not. I had to go get a second opinion. It's PTSD, and it affects my everyday life. So I have chronic insomnia. I struggle at work in terms of if someone drops something, I'll jump out my skin. I have these really vivid nightmares every night without fail of walking up the stairs at mine and Dan's and looking over the banister, and all I can see is his body on the floor. And it's really vivid, and I can still see his hand was clenched on his chest, but he looked like he was fast asleep.
I'm Meg. I am one of Dan's friends. I'm also part of the One for Dan team and the vocalist for when we do our songs. So the first time I met Dan was through Jordan, obviously best friends. And I was coming home from work one day and Jordan said, I've been out on the bikes with one of my friends. I'm going to come and say hello and he's going to be with me. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. First time, we'd only been together a few months, first time meeting one of his friends. And as I drove down my road at the end, because it was in a cul-de-sac, I saw 2 motorbikes. Obviously Jordan was on one, Dan was on the other. And I started to get really nervous because it was the first time that I'm meeting one of Jordan's friends. And I got out my car and I said hello, and Jordan obviously did the introductions, and Dan had his cheeky grin on his face and said hello. We chatted for about 5-10 minutes and then he was zooming off to go and see his parents because they had some plans to do. And then the next time I met them was when we decided I'd also meet Kate, and it was at the Chichilian up on the hill in Portsmouth. But it was only a very brief 5-10 minutes with Dan, and then he was off zooming on his bike. For me personally, it's been watching my partner and my best friend lose one of the most, if not the most important person in their lives. I only knew Dan for about a year. He had a big impact on my life. We used to go out, we all used to go on days out, Fort Park, used to have games night, movie night. But watching and having to hold my partner and watch him crumble was really hard. Going out with Kate just for drives with someone who used to be so bubbly and energetic to sitting there and crying and not talking was really hard because I couldn't do anything to help. All I wanted to do was wrap her up in cotton wool and just protect her, or bring Dan back, or do something. And I felt really useless. And that is probably the hardest thing, because I couldn't do anything to help. I always said I'll deal with them first and my emotions later. And And I dealt with Dan in my own time. When Kate felt better, we used to talk about it more. Obviously, we've done a lot of things to raise awareness for it now. But then sitting with Jordan, I think I stayed at his for must have been 2 weeks solid because he didn't want me to go. And having to watch him go through that was incredibly hard because, again, I couldn't do anything. All I could do is sit, listen, cry, and try to help. As a group, it's brought us closer, really, really close. We've never been this close before. Jordan will always say he was never friends with Kate, he was friends with Dan. Kate was just an add-on. But we're a lot closer now. And I think doing the music's helped a lot because it's been somewhere we can laugh and we can remember, and we can get sad, but it's a positive outcome. But I think as a group, losing our fourth wheel, basically, has just been devastating. It's probably the best word, because you don't expect it to happen. He was 27 and then gone. And that's not something that any friend group should have to go through.
My name's Jordan. Dan was my best friend. He was almost like the older brother that really, he was selfless. He would drop anything to help me out all the time, help us out. It helps my parents move into their new house just because we needed some help, everything like that. He would just drop everything just to help me out. And you know, I didn't have that at the time. Before that, taught me a lot. I think when we lost him, I grew up very quickly. I was forced into it, and I started trying to think about covering myself for the future, stuff like that. Make sure that I've got insurances here and there. Try and do the sensible things, because I certainly wasn't the sensible one out of the two of us, and he really was. So I thought, well, if he's not around anymore, I've got to try and take a leaf out of his book. We developed a bit of a love for barbecues. And when Kate and Dan bought the first house together, the first thing I said to Dan was, I'm not coming round until you've got a fucking barbecue. All right, when there's a barbecue, let me know, and I'm coming round. And he bought it, he was really proud of it, he spent a bit of money, it was a really nice little barbecue. And we just slaved over it for hours, watching YouTube videos, finding recipes for stuff that we can make, Jack Daniels flavoured burgers, all that kind of stuff. And we used to do it often. As soon as the sun was out, that was it. We would go around to Kate and Dan's house. We would do barbecues. We would take all the credit for doing all the food, even though the girls did everything else. We just stood around a barbecue thinking we would have met, you know. The music, I think it started out with, we wanted to do songs that Dan really, really liked, in remembrance of Dan, to celebrate Dan's life and to raise awareness about you know, SADS.
Please don't think you're invincible, because you're not. You're never too fit, you're never too healthy, and if anything, sudden cardiac death will take the fit and healthy ones. You know, people our age, in our mid-20s, late 20s, we do think we're invincible, and we're just not. And if I could give anyone watching this any advice, it's go on to, you know, the One for Dan website, go onto the Cryo website and sign up for screenings. They're free. They're paid for out the memorial funds from families who have lost people to this condition. And don't think it can't happen to you. You hear about this all the time and you think it will never happen to you, but it's happened to our family. It happened to me, it happened to Dan. Something needs to change. The statistics need to change.